we can look at who's involved in logistics. Who are the key players, right? You have your modes of transport, whether it's the truck drivers, the vessels, the cargo planes, the rail. Those are the primary means of getting goods from point A to point B, over land, air, and water. But then you have the people who contract with them, right? Your manufacturers and suppliers, and the people who buy from them. You have your middlemen down here for those manufacturers and suppliers who just don't want to deal with the complicated process of moving things around the globe. And then you have your ancillary players who just kind of sit in the background and help facilitate this, like your financiers, your banks, your insurers, and then your regulators to make sure that everything flowing across borders is done so in a way that's safe for the people in those countries. Logistics today still suffers from a lot of problems, right? It's a good 50 years later from the container becoming popularized, and we've still seen a lot of inefficiencies. It's very paperwork heavy. If you want to move things across a border, there's a couple of countries that are modern enough where you can send it electronically, but there's a lot today that still relies on somebody physically handing a document that's been signed and stamped and sealed to maybe a customs broker or to a warehouse. There's isolated software systems. They all build their own solutions based on their little centric role in the logistics ecosystem, but they're all not communicating with each other. And because of that, you have some inefficiencies. There's a lack of trust. At each stage of the journey, the person behind you and in front of you could potentially screw you over. And so you're very diligent on your own internal process, making sure you mind your own business, you don't share your data, and the lack of trust between the intermediaries here is very prevalent. We need a way for all these applications to have a standard way of communicating about their little job in the logistics chain, so that end-to-end flow of information is achieved in a secure and compliant way. So kind of wrapping it up here, what is the Fr8 protocol? We've distilled all the application needs down to a couple basic things. At the very bottom right here is the transport document core. This transport document core is designed to house data on a blockchain with permission role access, all packaged into a piece of software. So you deploy a transport document core onto the blockchain of your choice, whether that's Ethereum, Fabric, you name it. Blockchain is agnostic at this point. But inside there is very critical information about that shipment that you need along its life cycle. Wrapping that whole transport document core is your permissions and ID layer. Everything, access, read, write, runs through that permissions and ID layer, and make sure that you're authorized to do that. It's a big requirement to get into enterprise shipping, to make sure that you can have data in a public domain, but access to that data is very, very tightly controlled and secured. The interface layer is where you start to think about applications of the protocol, right? And so notifications get sent through one of the interfaces that we have. Payments and information about payment gets routed through the interface layer that we have. Transit data. So all those IoT devices that are springing up, getting attached to containers, how do you know that they're going to get stored down here? Well, we have that transit data interface, whereby GPS, temperature, humidity, accelerometer information can get pushed into that blockchain. We have the document layer. We talked before about how paperwork is so heavily relied on in the industry. Well, go ahead and associate the documents if you need to. We'll store hashes of that on-chain so that you know the integrity of that document is maintained. The list goes on, but we have 6 core interface that we're building. On top of that, we open it up to our ecosystem partners. So I'll go back. IBM, ShipChain, OpenPort, you have applications that you're building for logistics. Build on top of our protocol and get the benefits that come with these core sets of functionality so that you can all interact during your shipment lifecycle.